to talk to you guys to see if anybody in this beautiful room of glorious people would like to shout out something that you did in what I'm calling a moment of madness in the last few years. We'll section you off to make it slightly easier. Let me give you an example. There was a man a few months ago. I said, what did you do in a moment of madness in the last few years? He said he'd bought a butter churn. And I love the sheer panic you clearly had. What if we run out of butter? I asked him how many times he'd used it. He said just the once, because it turns out it makes a fuckload of butter. I think the easiest way to talk to you guys is in the sections you're sort of already in. So we'll start at the top, we'll work our way down the room. So that lovely upstairs section. Anybody in that upstairs section want to shout out something you did in a moment of madness in the last few years? Anybody want to start us off?
Got engaged.
Okay, we'll come back to this one. Hold. Well, there's so much to talk about. Quite a lot to unpack. Lady over here, shout out again.
Had a baby.
You had a baby. Is it your first baby?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it also your last baby?
Yes. Oh, God.
Somebody else answered.
That's my aunt.
It's who?
My aunt.
Your aunt. Does your aunt do a lot of babysitting by any chance?
She does indeed. She lives up the road.
She lives up the road. Who moved into the street first, though?
I did.
She's proper arsey, isn't she? I love it. And then she was like, I'm pregnant. I'm going to move in near my aunt. This is genius. What did you have, a girl or a boy?
Baby boy.
A baby boy. Never mind. You can try again for the proper ones. No, it's fine. Girls are better. It's just a fact. Did you have your baby during the time when it was really scary in the hospitals, my love?
It's always scary having a baby.
Is it? I've had some terrifying shits in my time. I really have. I had one once, while we're sharing, where I felt like it was kind of like giving birth, because there was a really wide bit of it, and I was like, oh, we've got the shoulders past, we're all right. But I appreciate it is always scary. Round of applause for the lady with the new baby. Lovely. We had somebody else over this side. Shout out again.
Got engaged.
How long had you been with your partner before the proposal?
4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
One woman went, The rest of you are like, seems fair enough. Just one woman really spoke for the group, didn't she? It's reasonable. And who proposed to who?
He proposed to me.
Is this him beside you there?
Yeah. No.
Hold on. Did you say yes, look at him, and then say no? Is that what happened there? Yes. Oh, no. Who is this beside you?
Jason.
Jason. Well, who is he to you?
Fiancé.
Oh, you was, so it is you? I thought you said no. No. So, Jason, you proposed to your good lady. Was it a very romantic proposal, my love?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And she went, no. Can you tell me where it happened? What happened?
I slapped him round the face.
You slapped him round the face before or after the proposal? Is that what inspired it? Is he into that sort of dirty shit, is he? Just a really good crack, and he was like, fucking hell, marry me. That was amazing. Now do me ball bag. Oh. He's nodding. He's not. I'm just taking the piss. Have you got kids? Have you got animals? What's the situation at home?
We've got kids, but not with each other.
Okay. Kids, but not with each other. Well, not if you keep slapping his ball bag. He's got no fucking chance, has he? Just be empty and dry in there. Round of applause for the happy couple. And we had somebody else upstairs. Do you want to shout it again?
A lightsaber. It was a nerd sort of impulse buy.
A nerd impulse buy? You've got your reasons already ready, haven't you? Just... Why don't you think... You think I would think it was a bad thing? It sounds fucking awesome. Now, it's not a real one, though. No. So what happens when you press... It can't shoot out, but what... Stop it. Somebody's laughing over there, behind there.
It's 3D printed.
It's 3D printed? No offence, mate, but it sounds shit. Does it turn on then? I don't really understand anything about 3D printers. Does it turn on?
It's more of a display piece.
More of a display piece? We're picturing your flat now, aren't we? Have you got anything else on display?
I don't know, ask her.
Ask her? I mean, we're all surprised you've got a girlfriend. Actually, I can't say it. Might be his mum. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? I love that you bought yourself a lightsaber. Well fucking done. Round of applause for the Star Wars fan. Good work. Upstairs. Middle section. Anybody want to shout at something you did in a moment of madness?
Got a hot tub.
Oh, you say have the confidence. A couple of people upstairs. All of a sudden, There's somebody over here. Shout it again.
Got a hot tub.
You got a hot tub?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you? So how many people does it sit?
4.
4. You know that, don't you, as well? You've had friends round. Oh, no, just the neighbours.
I got it from Lidl and I went in for milk.
You got it from Lidl and you only went in for milk. That's incredible. You should be on the advert for Lidl. They come in for milk, go home with, somewhere to have sex with your neighbours. Is this your partner?
Single.
You're single. He's definitely had people in that hot tub, hasn't he? Do you just sometimes sit in it on your own?
Do you know all my friends get in it? I don't.
I don't believe him, do you know? I've got a question for you. I don't know. I genuinely don't know the answer to this. In a hot tub, maybe everybody else can answer. I suspect you know, but maybe other people know as well. In a hot tub, does jizz mix in? I don't know. Does it mix in, or does it go stringy, goldfish poos? Go in with a little, a tiddly net and just try and catch it. Yeah, tell me.
As you would say, it gets claggy.
It gets claggy. I love that you know, and you're acknowledging that you know. Well, I hope you meet somebody very soon you can sit in your hot tub with. Round of applause for the lovely fella. Thank you. Anybody downstairs want to shout at something you did in a moment of madness?
I left my husband.
You left your husband. How long had you been married, my lovely?
25 years.
20... Oh! It's gone a bit panto in here, hasn't it? Ooh! 25 years, that's incredible. Are you officially divorced? Have you been through your absolute and all of that?
Not yet, January.
January? Fucking, it's going to be a good fucking day, isn't it? So you left him?
I did.
Yes, and is he still in the house that you were in together?
He is.
Yeah, and have you got yourself a fancy lady pad?
All over it. I've got.
You're all over it. You got a sexy pad, have you? I don't mean. We're sort of that age, you and I. And congratulations. And I don't know, I'm divorced and then remarried. I don't know if you all know, we've all had breakups and, especially significant relationships. I don't know if you've been through this phase yet. I feel like you might have done. There's a phase you go through when you get divorced or you end a relationship. There's a phase you go through where you can't sleep. And what you do, this is a tip if anybody's getting there or they're about to dump somebody significant, maybe who's sitting beside them tonight. What a great day. It's a tip, if you can't sleep, what you do is you have a big cry, you have a wank, you have a magnum, you go back to bed, sleep like a baby. I choose to keep the wank and the magnum separate, but it's up to you. I don't know. It's up to you. Well, congratulations and have a great day on your absolute day. Round of applause for the fantastic lady. Good answers. Very good answers tonight. Let me tell you a couple of my favourite ones. There was a lady in Birmingham. I said, what do you do in a moment of madness? She said, my lodger. And by way of explanation, she went, well, he's Greek. I don't know what that means. Fair enough. I said, do you still live with him now? She said, yes. I said, are you in a relationship with him? She said, no. I said, well done you. You've had this fling. You've got past it. You've been such adults about it. She said, oh, no, it's still going on. I said, did he cut his rent a bit? She said, actually, no, I put it up. Another one I liked was in Liverpool. A lady said, I said, what do you do in a moment of madness? She said, I've started drinking wine out of a mug. Which didn't sound that mad to me, but then she said, no, during important work meetings on Zoom. She said, the trick is you get the bit of string and the paper off a herbal tea bag and you drape it over the side of your mug. She's a fucking genius is what she is. When we first started going out, we weren't really even girlfriend and boyfriend. It was really early days in our relationship. We decided to go away on a dirty weekend. Give us a cheer if you've ever been on a dirty weekend. There's a lot of you, but there will be more of you, but you will have just realised that it wasn't with the person you're sitting beside. Woo! Oh, I'd never been on a dirty weekend. I didn't know what sorts of things you're supposed to take. Let's get some suggestions from you guys. Let's start at the top, because that worked well last time. Anybody in the top level want to shout out what you think you take on a... God, I haven't even finished the fucking sentence, love. There's a lady said handcuffs. What kind of handcuffs? Furry. Oh. There was last time I was working in Newcastle, a lady was on this level and she shouted out, handcuffs, like that. And I said, oh, have you got the heavy duty ones or the fluffy ones? And she said, I'm not telling you that, I'm sitting beside me, ma'am. You still shouted out fucking handcuffs. There was a fella the other day shouted out a bag of lube, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it comes in a tube. I imagined it being like an Asda bag for life, and he just dipped himself in every now and again. Anybody else upstairs want to shout? A rabbit. Oh, sorry. I thought for a minute I was like, no. You mean, yeah, because I was in Cheltenham and 3 people shouted out rabbit one after the other, and I thought, fucking hell, Chaz and Dave are in. Next level down, upper circle. Anybody got a suggestion what you take on a dirty weekend?
Anal beads.
Where are you? Where's... Hello, Flower. Anal beads. Wow. Have you... Why am I whispering? I'm in the microphone. Nobody else is listening, Flower. Have you got anal beads?
I've got plenty of things.
Okay. I've got loads of things. I've got, handbag and that. Is that the most extreme thing you've got, love?
No.
Didn't think it was. Now tell me about anal beads. They go up your arsehole. I figured that bit out myself. Can you still wear them as jewellery after that, though? Yes. Just make sure you've always got brown earrings and then you're fine. Anybody else in the top 2 sections?
Willy warmers.
A willy warmer. Why is it going to be so cold? I feel sad for the willy, do you? I mean, there is some way you could keep it warm, love. That's not an offer. Fuck, that sounded like a date. Why would you take a willy warmer, love?
Mine's always cold.
Mine's always cold. Have you tried just giving it a good roll? Let's come down the grand circle, anybody?
Cucumber.
A cucumber? Fuck you, I'm not taking salad. section? Cake. Where are you, love? Now you're fucking talking. Now, is the cake for eating or like for... I don't know what that was. I was going to say smearing, but that feels like a really bad word. Smearing. Is the cake for smearing or for eating, love? Everything, or a little bit of both. I like that. There was a lady the other day said chocolate body paint, and I said, well, only if I can paint it on my palms and lick it off myself, because I'm not fucking sharing. No, you stay where you are, love. No, it's definitely you making me do those noises. There was another lady shouting, shout again, love. Bread. A friend. Bread. It was a couple of weeks ago, somebody shouted out creme fraiche, and I thought, ooh. And then when I got off stage, she sent me a message on Twitter saying, no, I said femme fraiche. Oh. Anybody else in that section? Ball gag. A ball gag? That's something you haven't got, isn't it, love? There was a lady said, bondage gear. And I said, do you tie your partner up or does your partner tie you up? And she said, I tie him up and then I fuck off. Now let's do the rest of the boxes. And anybody downstairs got a suggestion what you take on a dirty weekend? What was that? Hold on. A what? A blow... Did you really say a blowtorch? In case you fancied a creme brulee? And was there another one over here? Where's the Viagra? Where did you... That you there? Oh, how you doing? You all right, love? Does that work for you? That's how she was made. Has she just found out as well, or? Oh, look at her, she's mortified. So is it, lovely girl, hello, is it good to know that your dad had a proper all weekend? 2 nights in a row. What about the bit, like the daytime? Is it like that through the day as well? Or, you know, how'd you get your clothes on? You just push it down, and then does it like boing? I'm always disappointed they don't do that noise. Boing. Wow. It was Butlins. Viagra at Butlins. Sounds like a Mills and Boone, doesn't it? There was a lady said crotchless pants, and I thought, well, I've often got a hole in, but it's never in the right place. But one thing you've forgotten as well is if you're going to take your rabbit, if you're going to take you've got to take batteries. You've got to take spare batteries because you don't want to turn into wow. Wow. All I'm doing now is stirring it. I rang my fella before we went away, and I said to him, I've been to family planning, and he must have thought this isn't going to be sexy at all. I said, I've got some condoms, because I'd heard they were free there, and I love a bargain. And he said, well, that's good. I said, I've got 36, do you think that'll be enough? And quick as a flash, he just went, well, you can leave 32 of them at home. And I thought, that's still 4, though, isn't it? And he went, well, use 2 of those for water balloons. Good to know that he had activities planned, though. Let me ask you guys a question. Shout out anybody in the room who's ever broken anything during sex. Takes a bit of settling. What did... Yeah, you broke something? Where were you? Lamp. A lamp or a lamb? Where are you, love? Where are you? There you are. Hello, love. It was a lamp. What kind of lamp?
It had a, ceramic base to it.
Ooh, a ceramic base. Ooh. And was it, movement and it just toppled off, or...?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. Did anybody get hurt, or was it all right?
No, it's all fine.
It was all right. So we've got a lamp stroke lamb from the lady over there. Lamp is a good answer. Thank you very much. What else we got? A bed. Where are you, love? Hello, Flower. Up there. And you broke a bed. Was it fixable, or did you have to buy a new one? You got a new one. Okay, there's lots of giggling going on there. Let's have a look. Is it the partner that you're with? Well, I mean, sorry, but if you sit in couples like that, I'm going to make assumptions about you, Flower. So it's this lady here, the one that's looking desperately like she wishes she wasn't here. So did you insist on the new bed? Was it a chance to get a new bed? It was at uni, and the landlord said you had to buy a new bed. Did he come in and inspect it? Did you lose your bond? That's what happens, isn't it, when you fuck a bed to death? Somebody's going to have to go. Was anybody hurt, or was it all right? It was fine. So we've got a bed, thank you very much, couple who love sitting next to each other so much. We've got a bed and we've got a lamp. What else we got?
A dessert table.
A dinner table. Who said a dinner table? A bird table. Were you the bird on the table? What did you say? Shout it louder.
Dessert table.
A dessert table. All of my tables are dessert tables. I'm just guessing, but are you quite posh? Well, this is for the bruschetta. Then we move over here, and we've got, I don't know, sausage and mash, I don't know. I can't even think of a posh main course. Did you say coq au vin? Fucking surprised. He's got it on the fucking brain. Do you really have a table just for desserts? Yes. Oh, you worked in a restaurant. So you're really not posh. No. And did it have... Why were you having sex at work? I like that there's at least 60% of the room going, my sex life is rubbish. So, was the restaurant still open? Were people like trying to get the jelly and ice cream from round you and that?
We were under the dessert table.
Under the dessert table. Don't I feel like a proper tit now? See, if it was me, I'd want to be in, like, writhing in amongst it. And then I'd just go, you know what, fella, I don't really need you. Oh, creme brulee. See, I thought of a posh pudding. Yes. Did you get caught? No. Well, now everybody knows because it's on a DVD, isn't it? I used to work in Nando's with her. Dessert table is a good answer. Thank you very much, love. What else we got? There was... A what? A rear view mirror. Okay, there's lots of questions here. Hello, by the way. Was the car moving? No. Okay, that's safety first. Got to get that out of the way. Was it knocked off with an arse, by any chance? You think so? Did you not notice till you were trying to drive away? There's something not right. No, it's not the spunk in me hair. It's, That's normal, it's Tuesdays. Can't seem to see behind me. You've still got it in the cleft of your arse, love. Did it shear off or just unclip? Because you can slot them back in, can't you, apparently? Shut up. Did it... It was quite an old car. And it's... Oh, yeah, classy, aren't you? Having sex in an old car. Well done. Was it through the day?
No.
No, obviously. I look at you like, what do you think, I am some kind of monster? I don't know, anybody else, you know know how everybody talks about dogging and everything, and I don't know anybody who does it. Maybe I do. But every time I see two cars together, I just go, dogging. Just automatically. One of them sometimes is an RAC van. Dogging. No, they're not. So a rear view mirror is a very good answer. Thank you, Flower. Have we got anybody else? Blood vessels. We've gone all the way from lamp to blood vessels. Where were the blood vessels? You thought he was dribbling on you? We need to know the rest, otherwise I'll not sleep. Just put your fingers in your ears if you're already feeling a bit sick. Did you just say you've all been there? Too much dribble. It's a telltale sign, pet. You turned the lamp on and he looked like a butcher's slab. You looked like a butcher's slab. He was champion. He was ready for the next go. So, yes, it would be a passion killer. If it wasn't a passion killer, there's something wrong with you. So you didn't actually work out where the blood came from? It was his nose. But it could have been a lot worse, because probably the most painful one I've had so far, a man said he'd broken his banjo string. It's about cocks, you should like this one. Snapping them and that. No. If you don't know what a banjo string is, you should just Google it when you get in. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not your mum. It shouldn't be a mum that ever tells you that. Now, things you need to know. What can snap on a cock? When you say banjo string, though, and a lot of the people in the room know what it is, and other people are going, why was he playing a banjo? I don't get it. Doesn't sound very sexy to me. It's not a sexy instrument. Thank you very much for that, Flower. God, I hope everybody's all right now. Jesus Christ. There was a man, actually, I did a show, and a man shouted out that he'd broken his foot during sex, and I said, did you carry on, or did you stop? And he said, carried on. And I recognised his accent. He was a Geordie, and I thought he probably didn't even put his fucking pie down. But I know it's a very personal question, and I'm grateful to those of you who did join in. Thank you very much. What sometimes happens is people go, I'm not going to tell her in front of all those people, but I'll send her an email when I get in. And I'm like, oh, I've got an email. Oh. Although I have got a man who sorts my website out, so he actually filters my emails. Mainly because I'm not very technical, but also because for a while I was getting loads of pictures of men's cocks just sent to me. And now he can print them off so I can put them on the wall. Just as a border, it's not too much. Would you like to sleep in the cock room this evening? But probably the best one that I've ever had by email, a lady said she'd broken a man's pelvis. Yeah, it was a one-night stand. She was on top. He was screaming. She thought he was having a marvellous time. But my favourite one in a show, the lady said she'd broken a man's spirit. I think we've all done that from time to time. I broke my vibrator once, that counts, right? And normally when I break things, I give them to me dad to fix. I can't do that. So I just whacked it off the bedside cabinet and it got it going again. It's not really a joke, that one. It's just a tip for the ladies. Thanks for watching. You know what would be great is if you liked and subscribed. I'm so needy. I'm so sorry. And why not come and see me live? And the tickets are available at sarahmillican.co.uk. Put the kettle on and settle in.